In the global landscape of electric mobility, a new reality is emerging on the horizon: the meteoric rise of Chinese electric vehicles. In June 2024, BYD Chairman Wang Chuanfu made a statement that echoed through the corridors of power in Washington and Brussels. Foreign countries are afraid of Chinese electric vehicles. This assertion, far from being empty rhetoric, reflects a profound transformation in the power dynamics of the global automotive industry, where China has rapidly evolved from a mere follower to become a protagonist and innovator. The speed with which Chinese manufacturers have gained ground is impressive. With an integrated value chain, robust government support, and growing mastery of battery technology, China has built competitive advantages that are difficult to match. The numbers tell an eloquent story. In 2023, Chinese brands like MG and BYD already accounted for approximately 9% of electric vehicles sold in Europe, with projections indicating that this share could double to 20% by 2027. The price difference is staggering. While BYD's Seagull model costs about $9,700 in China, comparable electric vehicles produced in the West often cost 2 or 3 times more. This price disparity is no coincidence. Chinese automakers benefit from lower labor costs, significant government subsidies, and cheaper battery production, the most expensive component of any electric vehicle. Additionally, large-scale manufacturing capacity allows for economies that further reduce costs. But anyone who thinks the appeal is limited to price is mistaken. Chinese electric vehicles increasingly compete in terms of technology, offering advanced autonomous driving systems and entertainment features that often surpass their Western counterparts. Faced with this competitive threat, the United States has opted for a hardline approach. In May 2024, Washington increased tariffs on electric vehicles manufactured in China from 25% to an impressive 100%, citing unfair trade practices. This dramatic increase represents the continuation of policies initiated under the Trump administration and maintained by President Biden, framing the EV competition as part of a great power contest for global political and strategic leadership. For American policymakers, the issue transcends economics. It's viewed as a battle for future technological supremacy. The European Union, meanwhile, has adopted a more nuanced approach, balancing protectionist measures with economic realities. Following an anti-subsidy investigation initiated in October 2023, the EU imposed definitive tariffs on Chinese EV imports, ranging from 7.8% to 35.3% for a period of 5 years starting October 30, 2024. However, this decision revealed significant divisions among member states. Only 10 countries, representing 46% of the EU population, voted in favor, while 12 abstained and 5 voted against. This split reflects different economic interests. France advocated for higher tariffs to protect its domestic automotive industry, while Germany, with its automakers holding large market shares in China, has been more cautious about potential retaliation. Canada followed the U.S. example, increasing its import tariff on Chinese EVs from 6.1% to 100% in August 2024, citing similar concerns about Chinese industrial policies and subsidies, leading to overcapacity and unfair competition. This transatlantic coordination signals growing Western unity in the face of what is perceived as an existential economic threat. The tariffs are already affecting Chinese EV sales in Western markets. According to research firm Rho Motion, MG, a brand owned by China's SAIC, which faced some of the highest EU tariffs, experienced a dramatic drop in sales following the implementation of tariffs in late October 2024. Data shows that the growth rate for SAIC's vehicles manufactured in China was on average 19% lower in Europe from November 2024 to January 2025, compared to the January-October 2024 timeframe. China has responded forcefully to Western tariff actions. In October 2024, Beijing filed a case at the World Trade Organization challenging the EU's tariff hike, with the Chinese Commerce Ministry calling the EU's investigation unreasonable and a protectionist practice of unfair competition in the name of fair competition. China has also threatened to retaliate against EU measures with a 25% tariff on imports of large engine vehicles, directly targeting luxury German automakers like BMW, Porsche, and Mercedes. Beyond legal challenges and counter-tariffs, Chinese manufacturers are adapting their strategies. Some companies are shifting production to third countries to circumvent tariffs, establishing manufacturing facilities in locations such as Thailand and potentially in other emerging markets. This approach may create new challenges for Western tariff policies, as they could face strong pushback if it blocks Chinese EVs manufactured or assembled in these third countries. Despite the trade tensions, global EV sales continue to grow. In February 2025, worldwide EV sales increased by 49% year-on-year to reach 1.2 million units. China led this growth with a remarkable 76% annual increase in February, while Europe saw a 19% year-on-year rise, marking the second consecutive month of double-digit growth. Chinese manufacturers are quickly adapting to the new trade environment. BYD, China's largest EV maker, has aggressively expanded its global footprint. The company's car transport ship, Explorer No. 1, delivered 3,000 vehicles to Germany in February 2024 and later unloaded 7,000 new energy vehicles at Brazil's port of Suape. This global expansion strategy, combined with competitive pricing, indicates that Chinese manufacturers are committed to overseas growth despite trade barriers. To mitigate the impact of tariffs, Chinese companies are also accelerating export diversification into emerging markets such as Australia, where BYD is making good progress in overtaking Tesla's EV sales. Since Australia lacks a domestic EV industry, it's unlikely to pursue anti-subsidy actions against Chinese imports. The EU faces a significant challenge in achieving its climate goals while protecting its automotive industry. In June 2022, the European Parliament voted to ban the sale of new internal combustion engine vehicles within the EU from 2035. However, in 2024, battery electric vehicles represented only 13.5% of total car sales in Europe, with the market still predominantly dominated by internal combustion and hybrid vehicles. To achieve the goal of 100% BEV sales by 2035, Europe would need an annual growth rate of 14% for BEV sales starting from this year, well above the 5% achieved in 2024 compared to the previous year. This creates a complex dynamic where European policymakers must balance climate objectives with industrial competitiveness. The outcomes of this global trade tension over EVs remain uncertain. If trade restrictions persist, Chinese manufacturers may accelerate their establishment of production facilities within the EU and US to bypass tariffs entirely. Wang Chuanfu's statement that, "If you are not strong enough, they will not be afraid of you," suggests that Chinese manufacturers view Western tariffs as validation of their growing competitive strength, rather than a definitive barrier. For Western automakers, the challenge will be developing affordable electric vehicles that can compete with Chinese offerings. The price gap remains substantial, with the cheapest EVs available in the US and Europe generally costing 2 to 3 times more than equivalent Chinese models. This reality places Western manufacturers in a dilemma: how to compete on price when facing fundamentally different cost structures. The growing tensions between China and Western economies over electric vehicles highlight the complex intersection of trade policy, industrial strategy, climate goals, and geopolitical competition. China's rapid rise in the global EV market has triggered protective responses from the US and Europe, though with differing approaches and intensities. While tariffs have begun to impact Chinese EV sales in some markets, manufacturers are adapting quickly through global expansion, third-country production, and targeting emerging markets. As the global transition to electric mobility accelerates, this trade conflict will likely continue to evolve. The response of consumers to higher prices, the ability of Western manufacturers to develop competitive, affordable EVs, and the effectiveness of Chinese adaptation strategies will all shape the future landscape of the global automotive industry. What is clear is that Chinese electric vehicles have established themselves as a disruptive force in the global market, one that Western economies are struggling to address through a coherent and unified approach.